Day 2 of my super sexy solver study. Why did I call it that? I don't know. I have a book that I might write at some point titled Poker Ain't So Sexy. But yeah, I don't know. You gotta name it something. So, day 2, we are going to talk about hijack versus big blind, right? Specifically a single raise pot where the hijack open raises and the big blind defends. However, first we're going to do a little bit of a review of Lojack because I think that is a healthy thing to do. We could do a whole training review and all that. I'm not going to do that. Feel free to, create account. To create an account on GTOBase, it's free, and just like do some training on your own, right? I think that's an excellent complement to the videos that I'm making. I'm going to make some more like tight type of videos. These are kind of like I'm streaming and I'm showing you my process of trying to learn No Limit Hold'em a little bit better by just this consistent study, right? And then I will probably do some training on my own as well. And of course, I played a couple sessions yesterday, went pretty well. I definitely had a couple spots where I was like, oh, it's a low paired board. I'm going to do this. And let's talk about what this would be. These are heuristics that we found yesterday. So I'll just call this up. It's a super fancy text document. So this is Lojack raise first in for 2.5 blinds against a big blinds call, right? And some heuristics were on monotone boards, we're doing a mix of checking and betting third pot and not using the larger bet sizes. There's a good amount of checking, right? 45% checking and about 53% betting third pot. The other bet sizes we can roll into the bet 33, so about 45-50, pretty close to 50-50, right? On rainbow boards, we're defaulting to range betting third pot. In general, it's actually more like, I think about 70% of the time we're supposed to bet, but we're using those larger sizings about 20% of the time, right? So when you take larger sizings and you condense them down into the smaller bet sizes, usually the check percentage will go down, right? If I, here on GTOBase, they've run all the sims for us ahead of time, and all of them have the options of check, bet third pot, bet half pot, bet 3/4. Anyway, all of these ones do anyway in this position, right? So if I were to take PO Solver or simple preflop, I think is the simple product, and do give the options of third, 50, and 75, I would probably get results very similar to this. But then if instead I said you can only bet third pot, it would take those bets, that 21% of range that wants to use the larger bet sizes, we would add that to the 48%. And then because we're putting less money in the pot with those hands, usually we will get to bet some more hands. That's kind of how it works. It's a little, that's just how it works, right? Almost like there's a certain amount of money we want to put in the pot. And like if I only gave it 50% bet size, we would probably, instead of checking 30%, we might check 35% or 40% even. So I think defaulting to a range bet for third pot on rainbow boards is a good place to start. And then there can be specific boards where you say, maybe I don't want to do that. On paired boards, lean towards betting range. Only use the large sizings on deuce deuce X, because that's the one where basically they're not going to have much trips, and when they don't have a lot of trips, our over pairs are function more as nutty hands, right? Whereas when they can have a lot of trips, usually when the other person has the nuttiness advantage, in other words, when they have the higher concentration of really strong hands in their range, we generally don't get to use the larger bet sizing so much, right? So when it's deuce deuce X, we get to use the larger bet size. My guess is that as we move on and big blind gets more deuce X in our range, in their range, we're actually going to shift towards using the small size on all paired boards, but we'll see about that. Next, trips boards, obviously not a really big deal, right? Like trips don't come on board that often, but when they do, we can just bet range. We bet small on big trips. So like ace, 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 we bet small, deuce, 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 we bet large. And on the kind of medium trips, I think you can kind of go medium, or you can probably go more small. Basically think about like, are they going to flop a whole bunch of quads? And if so, then we probably can only use the small sizing. If they're not going to have very many quads, then our big pairs are basically nutty hands, and we get to use these big bet sizes again. But we are getting to bet range on those boards, which is interesting. As big blind, facing the Lojack C bet, right? So Lojack has raised, big blind defends, the flop comes and we check. Now we did look at donking. I'm not going to talk too much about donking. Basically on those small to mid connected boards, we're doing a lot of donking. On boards with mostly high cards, we get to check fold a lot, like 50% of range, which is a lot, right? That's way under the minimum defense frequency. And as let's see, on small to mid connected boards, and this is including a donking strategy, we're folding very rarely, right? So we're leading out probably with a part of our range that's weighted towards the stronger parts, and we still don't check fold that often when we do check. On small to mid connected boards and mid paired boards, we also check raise a lot, like 20% of range. And my guess is if they're not supposed to see bet 100% and they do see bet 100% on these boards, then we are actually supposed to check raise like 30%, 35%. That would be like the exploit, right? And if we don't have a donking range, I would guess that we also get to check raise a little bit more. So basically, don't fold those boards a lot, check raise them mercilessly. You can donk out on them if you want, but on the high card boards, we can kind of just get out of their way. Like that's their territory. And then check raise a lot less on monotone boards also, except ace high and king high boards, we get to check raise some. Probably because we get more flushes, because the ace and the king of suit block a lot of the low jack's flushes and not as high a percentage of the big blind's flushes. And then also fold a lot on trips boards, right? We that's kind of like high card boards. It's a different actual board, but it kind of functions similarly in that case. All right, so that's the review of the heuristics that we picked up, things that I can and will turn into like little flashcards and just kind of remind myself, like, what do we do in this spot? Probably bet range. Yeah. Okay, cool. Bet range big. Yeah. Okay. So I'm now going to actually show you how I make charts from these charts. First, let me give a little welcome. Welcome. Good morning. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. And that's for Twitch. If you're on Twitch, hi. If you're on YouTube, hi, you too. Good. Okay, right. Yeah, so on YouTube, you can ask questions in the comments, and I will do my best to answer, to the best of my ability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a chart here of, first we're going to do the raise first in ranges. I'll show you my old chart. This is for like raise 25, right? 2.25. So the yellow is low jack, the green is high jack, blue is cutoff, yada, yada, yada. The point is this is like where where those hands are pure, right? So ace 3 suited plus, any two cards 9 suited plus. This is a typo. We're going to fix that. Okay. And then in the hijack, then these green hands become pure, right? Now these are from sims where we were raising 2.25 blinds and there were cold calls in the cutoff and hijack, cutoff and button. Hijack wasn't cold calling any, I believe. So we're now going to shift to the raise 2.5, and we're going to basically make the same chart. And essentially, basically, we take these hands and we go fill them in yellow, right? And then we fill in king 8 suited plus. I could try and do this from memory, like queen 9 suited plus. It's going to be jack 10 suited, and not really plus, but oh no. So, and jacks. The pairs, we can't really, oh, you know what? I can just hold down control. We're going to do that. And this is kind of like testing the memory of what these things were. I think ace 10 suited. I think this was it. We'll do that, right? And then we'll double check that. Also, this typo is persistent. I've copied it across all of them. So I have jack 8 instead of jack 9. The top right corner is suited. Bottom left corner is offsuit. Pretty standard convention there. So yeah, 7s plus, jack 10 suited, queen 9 suited, king 8 suited, ace 3 suited, ace 10 off, and king jack off. Right. So those are the hands that we play pure in the low jack. There's a bunch of hands that we mix, but I'm not going to put that on the chart. The chart is not for using while playing. On some sites, that's probably fine. I think some sites allow static pre-flop charts. Many do not. So check with the terms and conditions before you use a chart like that. Overall, I think it's better to use it as a study tool and then internalize it, so you're not like, even if it's allowed, I think going and looking things up in a chart is cumbersome. And as you internalize the ranges, what happens is then you're going to be able to think through the ranges while you're playing better. So I think some people think about like memorizing, right? And you can do that, but what I like to do is I prefer to think of it as learning the range, where instead of just thinking about um, instead of just thinking about sorry, I got distracted. Instead of just thinking about them like in terms of what they are, like using the ranges, studying with the ranges, studying spots and thinking through what someone's range is going to that spot, then they're just going to be, we're going to be able to apply them. And then it's not even like we're memorizing them, like it's just like data, right? They serve more as concepts in that case. And I think concepts are generally much more useful than just than just facts, right? Like facts are useful, but when we have facts that become concepts, you know, we still want to maintain the concreteness, but we don't need to like there's more there, basically, is what I'm saying. I don't know. That's a thing that happens. Yeah, some of the chat is possibly not showing up. I think that's a me problem, not a you problem. It probably shows up for other people. I've noticed watching Twitch, like sometimes things just don't come through. I don't know why, but if you said hello, hello. So okay, let's then proceed to the hijack, right? So we have this. We know that like King 10, Queen Jack, and then like Jack 9 suited, a lot of these suited connectors, 6s, 5s, Ace Deuce suited, these smaller King X hands. These are all partials, right? So now we're going to say, okay, the Lojack folded. What does the hijack do, right? Most of those partials, certainly the ones that were 50% or more, are now full, right? So we're gonna look at this range and just think about it for a moment. Okay, Ace Deuce suited, King 6, King 7 suited, right? Those ones. Jack 9 suited, 10-9 suited. Those all became pure. Pocket 5s, 6s, and then like King 10 off and Queen Jack off. Those all became pure. So I'm going to add those to my chart. We're going to go here, and I'm going to take the green and hopefully be able to find the same green. I don't know. It might not be the same green. Whatever. And then we are going to fill those in, right? So we'll try and do this again from memory. And then 6s. Oh yeah, we'll hold control 5s. Queen Jack, King 10. All right. And I think that's it for the pure ones, right? These suited connectors are still mixing. 10-8 suited, Jack 8 suited, even Queen 8 suited. Like you could take Queen 8 suited and King 5 suited and be like, yeah, I'm just going to make those look like pure opens because they're so close, right? Ace 9 off, and then the other offsuit Broadway hands are mixing in there some. And the smaller pocket pairs are still not opening that much, right? And this is partially because there's no cold calls behind us. If there were more cold calls, then we would want to open pairs a little bit more, but still not a ton. And these are all kind of like mixing 50-50, and these like suited 8x. So that's something to kind of just like keep in mind. And even King 4 suited, there's a little sliver of it, right? Maybe there's like some slivers of some other things. I don't know, probably not, right? So that looks like that's our range. So we've basically added a few hands at the margins. If we look at the overall percentage, we went from raising about 18% in the Lojack to a little over 22%. So that's 4% of hands overall. How many combos is that? Off the top of my head, it's not right there. 7.5% is 100. So there's like 50 some combos probably that we've added, right, to our range. But if you think about the total range, it's like, well, it was 18%, and now it's 22.5% almost. That's like 25% more hands, right? From the 18%, it's like 25% more of those. So that's a significant difference, but it's not a huge difference, right? And I think that's one way to think about it, like significant, but not massive. And I think we're going to see something similar play out, hijack to cutoff, and then it's a little bit more that gets added cutoff to button. In terms of percent of the range. Actually, it's more exponential, but whatever. Okay, so this is the open raise range. Now we could just train this spot, and in fact, let's do that for like 5 minutes only, right? We'll just go here. We'll say hijack. There's been a fold, right? Because we've navigated to that. Boom, start training. So this is just going to be like, should we open raise or should we fold? Jack 9 off. No, that's a fold. Next hand. Jack 3 off, fold, right? We're gonna fold a bunch of hands. Like 22%, that's still a small percentage. Ace 10 is pure. It was pure in the low jack. And now it's gonna maybe get us a post flop scenario, which isn't really what we're aiming for here, but we can practice it a little bit, right? Okay, so this is exactly the scenario we're gonna end up with. Ace 3-3, it's a paired board. In the other position, we were pretty much range betting paired boards. This might be one that we don't range bet. On a small pair, I'm going to say we still want to use this small sizing. It says, yeah, you can check this back some, you can bet it some. Not very close to a range bet, right? This ace on board, I think, makes it a little special case in terms of paired boards. So we can dig into that later. And sometimes what we might do is we might find something and be like, oh, I want to go back and see, was that different from the low jack, or is that also apply there, right? Like these ace pair boards. So this is clearly going to be a hand we're playing. We were playing this in the low jack. Apologies if you can hear the very obnoxious sound coming from outside. It is both obnoxious and something I can't do anything about. So yeah, we'll just go through a handful of these, kind of get a baseline of like where we're feeling. Probably not a ton of post flop spots right away, and then we'll proceed to looking at the big blind range. Right, so we have that there. So, you know, as you can see, it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of folding. And personally, I think this is a really good way to practice your ranges, right? I think it would be nice if there's ways to basically be like, yeah, automatically, like, don't show me any of the bottom 50% or something like that. But then, you know, you wouldn't really be able to track your progress in terms of accuracy rate. Okay, we'll raise this hand. We'll see if we get to play it, and then we'll move on. Because this is the sort of thing where I think you can definitely, you know, practice it on your own. Okay, small to mid, not super connected board, a little connected. What was it? On these, we were doing a lot of checking. We were using the small sizing. I think ace king, we can probably mix bets and checks. I'll throw a bet in there just to kind of see how it responds. It actually wanted larger sizings. So if you look at the overall range here, the bottom, hold on, there we go. Here you can see that it mostly with range wants to use the larger sizings. Same thing with the hand. The hand basically mirrors that, but doesn't use the largest sizing. Ace king, I think we're not going to get a whole lot of value from getting folds. Like maybe we can get some calls from ace highs, right? That's some value, but I think pretty much we want to check here. Yeah, it looks like we're mostly checking this hand, and we are using larger bet sizes with range. Here, if they check to us, like I almost think we have a value bet. They bet 457. I feel like this is probably close between a call and a fold. What got there? Basically, a lot of the straight draws got there. There's a lot of overcards that whiffed that I would think they could be bluffing with. I don't know. This is the limit Holdem player in me wants to make this call all day long, but it could be super fishy. We're going to make the call because it's not my money. Yeah, it's almost a pure call. In fact, we can call or raise. Folding is bad with this hand. So cool. Nice to know that some limit Holdem principles still apply here, even though, you know, I lost 4.57 blinds of money that does not exist, but I lost 0 EV. So cool. Let's go back to the library. And actually, first, what I'm going to do, we'll click into 6max cash and we'll look at view. And I'm actually going to do my big blind continue range against hijack first, right? Low jack, sorry. This is what we didn't do yesterday. Buffybot is lurking in the shadows. I like having, you know, Nightbot there. Thank you, Nightbot. All right, so against a raise, we're going to just go ahead and click call on big blind, and that will make everybody have folded out. Oh no, we don't want to do that. We want to go to fold on small blind, right? And then we're going to look at the big blind spot. That's correct. Okay, so we are going to, what do I want to do? What's the best way to go about this? I could like isolate that range, right? And then we just see everything that continues some, and we'll just only look at the pure ones. Or the other way of looking at it would be like, let's just look at the fold range, and then everything that's not in the fold range, right? Because we're looking at what we continue pure. So we will click to the big blind defense against 2.5. And first we're going to do the yellow ones because I did not do this yesterday. We are continuing all suited aces. And if I bring it over, you can see that there's a little color chart here for me in case I ever forget. But if I just use the same thing over and over, it's obviously going to be pretty easy to remember, right? So we continue that. And it's actually only king 7 suited plus that we continue pure. Wow. I'm just going to drag that all the way over. Queen 8 suited plus. Of course, the ace queen off is good. King queen off is good. Now jack 8 suited plus and queen jack off. We are doing a lot of folding of that actually. And then now we get to do 10-7 suited. These double gappers, if I recall, we're using all the double gappers down to down through 9-6, right? And so then 8-5 suited, we do some folding, but we can continue that if we want. 7-5 suited, and of course all the pocket pairs. 6-4 suited, up through 6s. 5-3 suited. It's annoying how the little pop-up thing here like goes exactly where I want my mouse to go next. 4-3 suited and 4s. We'll do that, and then 3s and 2s. I forgot about the control key. And then I think just ace jack off is the only other offsuit hand. Right. So this, if we just look at this for a moment, these are hands we are never folding against a 2.5x raise ever, right? We're, I mean, theoretically speaking, right? Exploitatively, we could do whatever we want, but this is the gist of it. So now we're going to go to the hijack, right? And we're going to, oh, that's not what we want to do. Oh, get this way. There we go. Okay, so we're going to move this aside for a moment. We're going to navigate. Oh, can you not see that? Is that you can't see that, right? That's not, yeah, okay. I'll bring it down. There we go. Apologies for that not being on screen the whole time. I forgot my camera was there. I can't see my camera when I'm looking at this. So what are we going to do next? We are going to go back and say the Lojack folded, and it was the hijack who raised. And we could go ahead and make this whole chart today if we wanted, but that's not the plan, right? The plan is basically to get the hijack, right? So we're just kind of catching up on the Lojack. So we'll go folds through the small blind, and now we will come back here. And now we can see hands like king 4 suited are all continuing. So we're going to go king 4 suited plus is continue. And so some of these hands are going to be 3 bets, right? But that's not going to be our main concern right now. Looks a little too dark. I want a lighter green. We'll go with that. Okay. Queen 7 suited and jack 7 suited. We're still folding those a lot. 10-6 suited, right? We're still folding a lot of these hands. What are we playing pure that we weren't playing pure? Just those suited kings. Is that right? Right. Queen 7, king 3, jack 7, 10-6, 9-5, 8-5 is still a... Oh, 8-5 now we're playing, right? 8-5 is pure. Continue. 7-4 we're still folding some. 6-3, and then all the deuce X, right? So those deuce boards, I think we're still going to want to be betting those a lot. All right, so that's it for the big blind defense on the suited hands. That is surprising to me. I am surprised by this. So, you know, you never know what the solver is going to do. So hands that now we are defending pure: ace 10 off, king jack off, and this queen jack off is so close. You know, I'm going to throw it in there because it's like, what is that percentage? It is 1.6% we're folding. Like, let's play it, right? We'll throw that in the chart. All right, so this is what this chart's going to look like now. So really the only hands we're adding to the big blind defense range are ace 10, king jack, queen jack for the offsuit hands, and then king 6 down through king 4, and 8-5 for the suited hands. All the pairs we were already playing. And then we're shifting our percentages, I suppose, of the hands that we were folding. I think we might have been folding jack 7 suited pure, but now we're continuing it some. And if you prefer to make like the opposite sort of chart where you're like, no, I want to know all the hands I can play, and as opposed to all the hands I must play, that's fine. You know, do you. Let me know if you're interested in these charts. Perhaps I will make them available somehow through something somewhere. But let us now proceed to post-flop, because that's what we're really here for. Except, you know, let's put all this range back in, and let's play the big blind just a little bit in this spot, right? Let's just try it. Yeah, we're gonna play the big blind pre. We'll start that, and then we'll play a little bit post. Okay, so ace nine off. That was a mix, right? So I'm gonna hit fold, and we could call it, and we could fold it, right? So, first in this word training pre-flop mostly jack three off. That's a pure fold. So if it's a borderline case, I'm gonna go ahead and fold it because we're not looking to get a bunch of post-flop spots. We'll get to that in a moment. Ace queen is going to be a pure continue. I imagine we're mixing 3-bets and calls. I'm going to 3-bet just to try and avoid a flop. It's mostly calling, actually. So, and by the idea isn't to avoid a flop while playing. The idea is right now. King 9 off was a pure fold, right? Yep. And, you know, hopefully we'll get some more edge cases. This is clearly a fold. I mean, it is garbage, and so is that. Even suited, deuce 5 suited. So maybe for each hand, you know, you think, okay, queen jack off, we're gonna call, right? Like each hand, if it's a fold, you think, okay, 6-3. Am I playing 6-3 suited? I think I'm actually even folding. No, I'm playing 6-3 suited, right? No, I'm folding it. Okay, so next hand. And we'll just do a handful of these. These are the sort of things, though, when you're drilling it on your own, like, do 50, do 100, like, you know, do, or take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Yes, we're going to continue this hand pure, right? And on a board like this, I imagine we get to just check fold. For this bet size, like maybe we can do something, but we probably want a double backdoor. Also, you know, I can pay attention to what they had. So this is going to be a pure continue. I imagine 3-bet a little bit. Yeah, it wants to 3-bet some. Here, you know, gut shot, straight, and a flush draw. I think I can probably throw some check raises in here with this. If I can't check raise this, I don't know anything about poker. In fact, I must check raise this and get them to fold a pair, right? They're actually supposed to bet fold jack X. So that's something that we can pick up when we watch how the other player plays their range. We see, yeah, they're basically never supposed to raise our check raise, and they are supposed to fold how much of their range? 35% of their range, but that's of their betting range, right? So they only bet a certain portion of their range here. I think a human might be range betting here. I don't know. And if they do, then we can probably check raise even more. We definitely can. Right, so this is going to be a call or a raise. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet it. It's mixing pretty close to 50-50. Oh, we're going to get a flop 3-bet pot. This feels like a pretty good hand to c-bet, as I'm going to have a lot of good barrel cards. The ace is pretty good for my range. I think it hits them some as well. Whether I go half or third, I kind of have no idea in these spots. And it wants me to almost check 100% and to check a ton of range. Interesting. So I guess they have a lot more ace X than I do in this spot. The fact that I'm not supposed to really be 3-betting ace queen much, that kind of makes some sense. So very small EV loss here, though. It's just like, yeah, that's kind of fine. But a good thing to think about, and we will get to these 3-bet pots. In general, I think studying 3-bet pots first makes some sense, but there's only 8 of the single raise pots. So I was like, let's just go through those. And when you know, the thing about learning the single raise pot spots is that we get to play with the Lojack range, right? The full raise in range. We get to play with the hijack range, the cutoff range, the button range, you know, all the raise first in ranges. And I think that drills those. And in order to understand how we defend that range against a 3-bet, I think we need to understand the range itself first. So, yeah, I mean, I could easily spend so much more time on all of these things than I am. But, yeah, I don't know, whatever. We are going to proceed now to, how do I go back? There's probably a way to do this a little more. Yeah, we go here. Let's go to we'll go to this. If I click the call there, that's going to take me to the library, I think. Like, there's all these shortcuts. All these things are links. So as you learn the software more, it becomes much easier to navigate. I'm feeling that already, but I'm sure it gets much easier, right? Let's just briefly look at the 3-bet range so we understand what hands are not present in the big blind's defense range, right? So basically, aces, kings, queens are absent from the big blind's range. Ace, king off, there's a very, very little smidgen of, but very little. Ace, queen suited. king jack suited plus queen jack suited, right? So those hands, there's just going to be very little of, which means when the boards comes with like aces, kings, and queens in it, there's not going to be a whole lot for the big blind. Let's look at some of the fractional hands as well, these offsuit Broadway hands. So if it is like an ace king queen, if it is an ace king queen, we're going to have some jack 10 offsuit. Jack 10 suited, we're going to have about half of as well, because we're 3-betting a fair amount of that. These other suited Broadway cards, we're doing a lot of 3-betting. And then just all the suited hands, we're mixing in a fair amount of 3-betting, except for the weakest ones. And then we're also calling some of these like 7-4 suited, 6-3 suited, 5-2 suited, weaker suited queen X. So we're going to hit a queen a little bit more than we did against the low jack. And then a little bit of ace 9 off, 10 9 off, you know, king deuce suited and stuff. A little wee bit of 3 deuce suited. So if it comes ace 4 5, we can have a straight, but not a lot. Not a lot of them. Okay, so we're going to hit call here. And then we're going to put in a board, our trusty 10-9-8. I think we're going to check range on this board because that's what the low jack did. Or against the low jack you did, yeah. But now we're just going to play the spot, right? So let's play the spot a little bit. Let's try about maybe 10 minutes of playing the spot. And yeah, either player and any board, right? So let's just look at this, think, okay, it gave us that exact board. We're not playing. Yeah, I think we're not playing random boards. Okay. I'm not sure. That would be quite a coincidence. When they check, I imagine we might check a fair amount here. We're just blocking so much. These monotone boards, I'm going to suspect we are betting on the smaller side. If we're checking nut flushes, this feels like a pretty... Is this a good one? I don't know, because it's hard for them to have a flush. It's hard to flush over flush them. Yeah, we're mostly betting it. We're checking some. And when they're going to check, and then I think we're probably going to use over bets. And, you know, the interesting thing is that, like, the only flush they have here pure... Wait, do they have queen 7 suited pure? No, right? The only flush they have pure here is a straight flush. It's like queen jack of hearts, right? Yeah, every other flush is just a partial. So that's kind of hilarious. I'm going to try the overbet. Yeah, it wants either overbet or small bet, it looks like. It's happy with this action. And then on this card, I think we still get to go ahead and jam. You know, some 10x with a heart, like queen 10 off with a heart. Do they have that? Jack 10 off partials. They have partials of those. It's ace 10 off without a heart. Maybe that, I don't know if that calls twice. They can't have the king of hearts. It's hard to really see how we can get called by that much. So yeah, this was a mistake. So I thought through it and then I did the wrong thing anyway. But yeah, you can't use that large of a bet size. You want to go 3/4 spot, which feels a little weird here. But yeah, I mean, we went from having a very nutty hand to, I guess, just having a not that nutty hand. And it's, you know, an EV loss of 1 big blind. But if you think about it, that's 1 big blind per 100, right? So that's pretty substantial. Now, against some players, this is probably right. Against some players, it's even more wrong because they're just not even calling with any of their flushes. So we need to bet smaller here, right? Now, if I go to the next hand, it's going to be the same board. Is that correct? Or are we going to get different boards? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to abort. We're going to go back and go to the call. And I think now... No, that would be to play this spot. So if we go here, do I have to select a board? Okay. And then I think down here there's a symbol somewhere. No, we don't want to play that. What was it? Do people remember? There's a whole way of navigating. Oh, select Postflop. Okay, that's the way we do it. So you click on those double arrows, right? And then we go... We'll minimize that. I don't need that. And we will go hijack is the pre-flop raiser, big blind is the pre-flop caller, cool, single raise pot. And now we should be able to train it, I think. Doesn't that, no? This is going to be this board though, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, any flop. This is predetermined. Okay, so here's how it works. Here, this is predefined. You can just put in any flop, but if you go to all, then now we hit start training. Boom. There we go. Cool. All right, monotone board. My heuristics for Lojack say we check a lot. I'm gonna think with a diamond, we probably bet here. Without, maybe we get to just check. This is a hand that can deny a decent amount of equity, but if they're calling with any diamond, it can really only deny like 4 outs. So yeah, that's a mix. We're betting some, we're checking some. And then now we're proceeding to turn play. I wonder whether we're supposed to call this. I'm gonna fold. Against a pot size bet, it feels like it's just too much, yeah. Definitely in game, I'm folding hands like that. All right, monotone board. That means we get to do a fair amount of checking. Wait, oh, we're the big blind. Okay, big blind. As big blind, we're probably supposed to, maybe we don't lead monotone boards much, but this is one of those low connected boards that I think we do get to do some leading. I am going to check, which it says no, you just check range here. They're supposed to check a good portion of the time. I think this is nonsensical as a bluff and as a value hand also. So we check. And, the question is, do we get to actually call a bet at some point? If I hit a jack or an ace that's not a club, I think we get to value bet here. The question is how big. I'm thinking not super huge. If we're betting some jacks big and some jacks small, this would be a jack. I would guess we'd get to bet big. Their range, I think, has a lot of like ace X. I don't know. I think small, but maybe one of these. I mean, certainly not like an overbet, I don't think. Yeah, in fact, we're not even supposed to bet very much. We're mostly supposed to check. Are they supposed to like slow play so many hands? Wow. I think in a theoretical sense, this is probably too high up in our range to fold. But on the other hand, we don't have a lot of blockers, right? We're not blocking any clubs, and I guess they could check twice with those. We're not blocking like a 6, not blocking any relevant boats. I mean, Jack, I would think would bet. I am going to hit call though. Yeah, and they had aces, and this is hilarious. Small blind would have flopped the ace-high flush. And the villain is they're supposed to check back aces twice. And if we look at it, yeah, their hand is mostly supposed to check. And then they're supposed to raise the river here. I wonder if I use a bigger bet sizing, if they're supposed to not raise. I'm going to hit replay hand just because I want to know that. So we're going to go check. Hopefully they keep checking. And we get to the same scenario. It's funny because I know their hand, right? They have the same hand that they had last time. And now on the river, I'm going to hit a jack. And it's kind of like Groundhog Day, right? I'm going to hit this larger bet size. And I think they'll just call against the larger bet size because this is going to have, yeah, now when I use this sizing, I'm going to have more of my flushes and boats and stuff in range. And yeah, and it's fine with either decision, right? The solver's like, yeah, that's cool. Either way is fine. So I flop a nut flush draw on a board that I think I can have some leads. 6-5 suited is in our range and not as much in their range. Also, all the pocket pairs we have, and they don't have a lot of 3s and 4s. They have 4s pure, right? No, I think not. I think 6s and 5s they have pure, not 4s. So I do think we can lead this. Yeah, and it says we can lead some with our range. We can lead some with the hand. They check it back. I'm not sure how much, like, with a weaker flush draw, I'd be more apt to bet here. I think, yeah, this is just like, it's this confluence of showdown value and equity in terms of like improving, right? Chances of improving, that I don't think we want to turn it into a bluff that much. Maybe now facing a bet we can, but I'm still just going to call. Basically, they can give up. Like, I call here, and if I check and they give up, my hand wins sometimes, right? They've got like king jack of diamonds sometimes, or 9-8 of diamonds, or whatever. I don't think I get to call a bet here. It might be close, but I'm gonna fold. I think there's not a ton of ace-high call downs. Wow, king jack offsuit. That's interesting. And I am supposed to call some and fold some. So whenever you're in a spot, okay, these hands where it says like mix this and mix that, it can be very unsatisfying. Like, okay, cool, I mix. What do I do, right? When you have a hand that you're thinking, I'm not sure if I should do this or this, they feel close, and then you look at the solver and the solver says you should mix those two actions, that kind of means you nailed it, right? That means that you felt the tension there, that you're like right on the edge, right on the razor's edge of like, yeah, this is maybe just enough showdown value that I can call, but not so much showdown value that folding's out of the question, right? So I think this is actually like a really important point, and I'm very happy with this hand, actually. All right. Okay, 10, 10, 7. Paired board, we were betting range on paired boards. Was that right? I think we were betting small range, except on deuce deuce. So I'm just going to go ahead and bet as if that's, yeah, and we see pretty close to a range bet in this spot. So it feels like a lot of the heuristics from the Lojack are going to port over to the hijack. We just have to remember kind of where at some point we're going to get good enough that we understand like there's like a niche, right? There's like an inflection point where it's like, okay, because they start defending all the 10x pure, then the 10-10 boards, we can't bet range, right? Or maybe we still can. But 10 high boards, maybe something like that, right? Become the equivalent of a different type of board. I don't know. More details on that to come. Okay, Queen Jack 7. These high card boards, I think we get to bet very often, and they're supposed to fold very often. Double high card, you know, I think I can just like straight up get some good value here. I do think some of the larger sizings are going to get used. If we're mixing sizings, I think this hand will prefer the smaller sizing, so I'll go ahead and do that. It's basically like, yeah, use whatever sizing you want and check some too if you want. Here, a lot of their draws have improved in terms of any of their straight draws might have hit a king. I do want to train myself to think more concretely. So let's name the combos. Ace King they shouldn't really have, right? King 10 they can have some, and that has improved to a pair. 10-9 they can have suited, and that improved to a pair. King 9 suited, that's about it, right? So some of the other straight draws like 10-8 suited, 9-8 suited, those have not improved. Still, you know, if I bet here, maybe I'm trying to get a queen to fold. Maybe I can bet on the larger size. I'm going to go ahead and check. I don't think a smaller bet for value makes any sense. And if I am trying to bluff, I think I want to go big. The ace of spades kind of protects me against a lot of their potential draws. So getting them to fold equity seems like it has less value. Now, turning my hand into a bluff feels a little bit more useful because I'm blocking the nuts. I'm also blocking ace 10. Having said that, I feel like with the jack, this is maybe still a bit too much showdown value to turn this into a bluff. A hand like ace 7, which I can't have ace 7 off anyway, so it's hard to think of really a hand where I am going to have the ace of spades and can bluff here. So if I'm going to have any big bluffs, this would probably be it. When you are turning a pair into a bluff, I think usually you want to use the larger sizing, because if you use the smaller sizing, it's like you're value betting or something. I'm going to check, but I do think this is maybe one of my best bluffs. All right, so it's a pure check. It's a pure check. It says that actually betting is also kind of fine though. And I'm going to hit replay on this hand because I want to see what happens if I bet river, what they do. No, that doesn't make any sense. I should just abort. Okay. I'm going to try checking. We'll try the check line because I know that there was a little bit of checking involved. And here, I think we just continue checking. We have that showdown value. Yeah, it says you can bluff a little bit. And then when the spade comes and they bet, I'm trying to figure out whether I can call because I'm blocking flushes and have some showdown value. Whether I want to raise, because this is still an interesting bluffing hand. I think it's probably a call, yeah. But you can raise, and the raise is clearly turning the hand into a bluff, right? I mean, it's got to be raised to 8 1/4, like a small raise. That's not what you want, though. You want the larger raise sizing, including a jam. It's like, yeah, you can jam if you want. Like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? All right, let's go to the next hand. We'll do about 10 hands, I guess, and then we will dig into, you know, the charts. Okay, ace 10-9 with a queen jack. I've got, all right, monotone board. I don't need to bet a ton, right, that frequently. I'm probably going to use the smaller sizing. This is kind of my default heuristics, which then we're going to double check. So in this case, with the jack of diamonds, you know, I feel like I probably have enough to bet, and maybe we check this sometimes. Yeah, it's like, okay, either way is fine. And, you know, we got king high to fold. We had queen high. That's good. You know, like that's one of the reasons we bet. We would probably also get like red or black fives to fold or something. All right, ace king. This board, 2 high cards on it. That's probably pretty good for me. I'm raising a lot of Broadway cards. I've got all the sets. No, I don't have all the pocket fours. They have none of the kings, and we each have. I have all the tens, all the kings. They have some of the tens and all of the fours. So I have more sets than they do. I think larger sizings are going to be okay on this board. I'm still going to go with the smaller one for whatever. No, so that's a mistake. I mean, it's not like a mistake, but it's something the solver doesn't want to do. So let's replay hand and see what happens if I use the larger sizing, which I was leaning that way. Why did I go away from that? What do they do with Jack 10? They call, right? With a heart. Jack 10 with a heart. They check raise. They are bluffing this. I think this has to be a pure call. Way too high up in my range to consider folding. I don't think I have a lot of 3-bets here, is my guess. Yeah, this is just a pure call. And if you look at my range, there's very little 3-betting, like 6% of the time. So it's something. They check. I feel like I've got to be betting here, right? The board is so wet. With the board this wet, I would think that I want to use the larger sizings. I'm going to go to this purple sizing. It likes pot in these spots more than I would expect. No, it wants the smaller sizings. Okay, so it does not like this size. I guess the idea is when they're checking, they don't have a lot of king X. And we're just not afraid of them drawing to a flush, I guess. I do have the backdoor nut flush draw blocked, although that feels like something they might be barreling with. All right, we'll go to the next hand. So just bet a little smaller on the turn. We're not super focused on turn play right now. So, okay, they lead out on this, mid-connected board. I have ace high, and it feels like too much hand to fold for these odds, but I think it might be a fold. I have no hearts. I'm blocking some of their draws. I guess I do have a backdoor straight draw and 2 overcards. This might be too much to fold, but I'm going to do it. All right, so there's one of those examples where it's like, yeah, this was close. It was borderline, and I thought it was borderline. So that's good. And they had 6-9, nice. And they flopped a top pair and a gut shot. And, they denied equity in a spot where I think I'm checking back on that board, right? I think I should check back on that board a lot. Here we've got a little wheel board. They're going to have ace-4 suited. I'm going to have ace-4 suited. Nobody has ace-4 off. So we have not the same amount of straights. They have 6-4 suited as well. So they're going to have a nuttier range here. I don't think I can use large sizings that much, even though on these small boards, I do have all the over pairs. They have big set advantage too. Yeah, I think I have to go small. Yeah, it likes small here. A lot of checking with the range. This hand's mostly betting. It's just very good. Do I get to barrel? Now, if I do I like use overbet barrels? This is, and my turn play is very underdeveloped. And let's see, Cool Penguin, love the analysis. Excellent, thank you. Welcome to the chat, welcome to the stream. I'm going to be doing this every day this month for 2 hours, so we'll do a different spot each day. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions, or you're like, oh, hey, what about this on that board? I'm going to try and stick pretty much to the program, but I'm happy to kind of, go down a rabbit hole here and there. Okay, so I had top pair. It's not top pair anymore. Can I get them to fold any like 6s plus? I don't know. I'm skeptical. Possibly. Can I get value from other draws? Like recently what I've seen leads me to feel like this is often a check back. But yeah, I think we can at least check this some, right? But I won't be surprised if we're supposed to bet on the larger sizing a fair amount. I think the smaller sizing doesn't get much done. Yeah, so that is correct, right? Checking is fine, but if we look at it, we want to use some of the larger bet sizes. I think we do want to be trying to target, like actually fold out some hands. And now here they go full pot. They can have a jack high flush draw, 10 high flush draw that hit a jack or a 10, maybe some overcards that peeled. And, I think this is probably too much hand to fold. I don't think it makes any sense as a bluff raise. So I'm going to call, but I won't be shocked if against this full pot bet, I can fold some. Yeah, so it's a mix. It's a mix because it's a full pot bet. I imagine it's a smaller bet size is just like a snap call. Let's see. Earlier you said we want to do a lot of checking back on monotone boards. What's the rationale there? Yeah, I mean, basically like Solver says, right? I think the rationale is probably because like basically I'm looking at Solver output, right? And then trying to figure out why it wants to do what it wants to do. I think what's going on in monotone boards is each player has a certain number of flushes that kind of like, those are the value hands, right? And then kind of sets also, but the sets are in rough shape against the flushes unless they can improve, right? So since each player has this like tier of value that's like not even that close to the other tiers, and then there's just like the one card flush draws, it's just like there's not a lot of hands that can put in a lot of money. And so I think what happens is when there's not a lot of hands that want to put in a lot of money, especially like in these single raise pots, right? Then you can't do a ton of C betting because you're not going to be able to do as much barreling. In terms of exploitatively against humans, that might not be the case. That might be a case where you can deviate a lot from the solvers. But that feels like a good cue to go into actually looking at the spot in terms of what we're gonna do. Okay, we'll go to that now. Sometimes words, I'm like, what are the words for this? Yeah, so here what I want to do is we're gonna hit call, and then I guess you just put in a board, it doesn't matter. And then we are going to here, yeah, there, this symbol just gives us like all the boards. And so now let us make some notes about hijack, hijack versus big blind behavior. So the first thing I like to look at is big blind donks on which boards, right? Because that's the first decision point. And we will come back to monotone boards very soon. But first I just want to look at, okay, so big blind donks, 6.32% overall. That's not a lot. I think that was less than Lojack, but I think some of my notes disappeared. I found exploitedly a single c-bet can generate a ton of Holdem monotone boards. Yeah, I think that's accurate, you know? So I think that's a reasonable exploit, is like people just don't continue enough on monotone boards. People probably don't mess with you nearly enough. Like they're supposed to check raise a certain amount. Actually, they're not supposed to check raise against your correct c-betting range, or your theoretically correct, right? If you c-bet the amount that the solver says, they're supposed to not check raise almost at all. But if you c-bet like range and you're not supposed to, they're probably supposed to check raise you like 30-40% of range or something ridiculous. But if they're not doing that, then yeah, go ahead, just take their money, right? It's free money. Of course, sometimes then there's maybe potentially bigger exploits on later streets, so we don't necessarily always want to take every flop exploit, but that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, that's a great observation, is like seeing that that's what's happening. Okay, so I want to look at the boards that they check the least, right? So it's still these small mid connected boards, right? These like cards, multiple cards 8 and lower. Yeah, basically that's what it is, right? It's exactly the boards that we thought it would be. So big blind donks on small to mid connected boards with 50% plus frequency. Now it would be interesting if they also had the sims for like no donk allowed, right? The same way ultimately it would be nice to see sims for like 2 1/4 big blind opening or 3x opening and stuff like that. But this is what we got for now. I think it's pretty useful, and for a free thing, it's outrageous, right? Very high value there. Okay, so I think that's about, we can see like yeah, let's see, monotone. How much are they supposed to donk? They're supposed to donk even less, right? In fact, they never have a higher than 22% or 22.5%, never more than 22.5% donk on monotone boards. So that's just another thing. It's like, oh yeah, mostly it's is it mostly two-tone? Oh, this changes, right? That changed on the top. It's kind of all, yeah, it's basically select. Let's see, is it select two-tone boards? What am I doing? Yeah, I want this to be as high as possible. Okay. Yeah, so on some two-tone boards and on some rainbow boards, monotone boards are the ones that get donked the least, right? Monotone boards are also by default very dynamic, I think, right? Because the fourth card of that can always come, and that just like super changes the dynamic. Okay, but let us go now to what happens when the big blind checks, which is, you know, the most common thing, right? 90% of the time. And in reality, it's way higher than that. I mean, I think humans check like close to 100, right? A lot of good players just like don't even implement a donking strategy because it's probably not that essential. Okay, so now we will look at what happens when it is the hijack's chance. Okay, so hijack, c-bet, ops versus big blind call and check. So what we've got here is 38% check, 36% bet 33, about 10% bets 50% of pot, right? And 15.6%, I don't know why I added a decimal there, bet 75. So if we compare this to what we were doing, what the Lojack was doing, hopefully, do I have that note here? Where'd it go? I had a thing. Basically, this is a similar amount of checking, but it's using the large sizing more than the Lojack did, right? So I think that's something worth noticing is that, so overall, hijack uses large sizing more than Lojack did, which is actually the opposite of what I thought. I thought it was the other way. I thought usually Lojack did more, but apparently not of the large sizing. Okay, so let's start with monotone, right? Monotone. So hijack checks 47.5% on monotone boards. That's like almost half the time. Rarely uses larger sizings, right? So basically I had a heuristic for the Lojack, which was mix of checking and bet 33. Don't use larger bet size. And I think that's basically exactly the same here, right? It's 47% check instead of 45% check. Okay, so it's even more true that you know you check even a little bit more. Let's see which boards use the large size, right? So ace 5-3, these ace wheel boards are the only ones that use some large sizing. I think we can pretty much just forget the large sizing and be like, yeah, on monotone boards, we're going to do third pot or not, basically. Are there ones that have a really small check percentage? Yeah, it looks like boards without an ace have a lower check percentage, whereas this is probably going to make a lot of sense. These small boards check more. Small boards in general are checking more. And can we pick specific cards? I guess there's high rank, low, and middle. Yeah, so maybe at some point we'll be able to filter. Oh, maybe we can filter like ace. I don't know. Is that a thing? No. Oh, but we can do like this, right? No? Oh, okay. I see. We have to do that. These are all ace high boards. Okay, there we go. All right, so now on ace high boards, there is a lot of checking, right? On king high boards, a little less, 10. 10 doesn't mean there's no ace, right? Yeah, so we're gonna add a little detail, check even more on ace high boards. And so I think the key there is like, a lot of the suited combos of in position are ace X. When the ace is on board, you can't have any of those flushes. So, that hurts. Yeah, you got your ace king and you got your pocket aces for those kind of things. But You know, if you have an ace and a king on board, yeah, these are all like 50% plus, except for ace king 7, which I guess, I don't know, reasons. All right, we will now proceed to what was the next one? Rainbow boards, right? Let's just look at rainbow boards. All right, so rainbow boards have this 31% check, which is way less, or substantially less, right? Overall, it was 38% check. So rainbow boards, 31, 44, or 45, 10, 13, right? So significantly less checking. And kind of a mix of the sizing, mix of sizings, really, right? I would say if we default to range bet 33%, we're okay, right? So basically, if the board is rainbow and we can't think of any other reason to do something else, you know, we can use that sizing and bet for range. Actually, let's go and let's look at the highest check percentages. Basically ace wheel wheel. So in fact, it seems like ace high boards, if we just go to ace high rainbow boards, it's not really that much higher overall, right? So if we go ace and it's like 2 high cards, doesn't seem to actually, oh, what? Yeah, I don't feel like we're getting anything right there. But yeah, it seems like ace high boards, right? Check some ace high boards check a lot more. So ace with no other high card, basically, it looks like. No, ace king 4. All right, some of these are just a little weird. And that's the thing, is like you have to look at the data and see what you can glean. And sometimes there's just like not there's just not an obvious takeaway, right? And that's fine. And then when you're playing, you have your, you know, larger default, and then you try and think concretely. And that's okay, right? We're not trying to play everything perfectly. We're trying to improve overall, right? Improve the thought process. So let's see. Some ace high boards have high check percentage. Especially ace low low. Right, okay. Let's look at paired boards. Okay, so obviously there's no monotone paired boards. Paired boards overall very low check, right? I mean, look at that, and none of the higher things. So we will basically say which ones have the high check percentage? Yeah, ace low low. Yeah, ace pair pair, right? Okay, so basically we'll say this. Paired boards have very little checking. Bet range for 33%, except on ace pair boards. Ace high paired boards, which do a lot of checking, right? Okay, and that makes sense. And that's sort of, that kind of dovetails with the idea of the monotone boards, right? Where on an ace pair, you've got these a lot of like way ahead, way behind. So way ahead, way behind, I think often gets played very passively, because the idea is, you know, either you're winning and there's not that much they can do to catch up to you, right? Like, I think that's the thing about monotone boards. There's all these, the hands that are unpaired without a flush draw, they just have very low equity, right? They only are ever gonna have, like, if you have a pair of 6s with the suit, then they can only have 4 outs, because if they hit one of their pair cards and it's the suit, then you make the flush. And even if they hit it, like, they can never be that confident in it. So that kind of way ahead, way behind, where it's here, it's like, well, they have an ace, they have trips, or they have like no outs if you have like ace deuce or ace 4 on like ace deuce deuce, right? So yeah, I mean, or 2 outs or something like that. So Let's see if if there are any boards that we bet large on, and we don't even use the large sizing on the deuce deuce, right? So yeah, basically, in the Lojack we were using the large sizing when it came deuce deuce a little bit, but here very little large sizing. You can say, what was it? Yeah, half pot on like, you could bet bigger on ace ace king or ace king king, but that you can figure that out yourself. I don't think we need to get that special. Although trips boards are super. Oh wait. Okay, I did something perhaps wrong. Okay, we're gonna go to paired, and now yeah. Okay, I did something totally wrong. Scratch that. Those were all about ace high boards, right? So you always have to double check what your filters are. And paired boards have very little checking. That is still correct. Bet range except on ace high paired boards, which do a lot of checking. Let's double check though here. Yeah, that's still mostly correct. King low low. There's some more. Mid paired boards maybe check some more. Mid paired boards maybe check some more. And then there is going to be a little bit of this like large bet size, and that is on the deuce deuce boards, because again, they did not add a lot of deuce deuce to their range, right? And then once we get down to 3-3, the large betting is much less, already much less. So, and I see like 8 deuce deuce and like queen deuce deuce. Some of these we don't want to use the larger sizing, but overall, I think I'm going to say, deuce deuce X boards still use larger sizing some, right? So this is still the same as it was in the Lojack. All right. Trips. Just don't check a board with trips. Always bet if the board is trips. And does it follow the same pattern as the hijack? If we look at the small bet sizing, the small bet sizes are the big cards. I mean, look at this. It like basically just goes straight down. The large bet size is the small cards. The medium bet size is the medium cards, right? So same pattern as Lojack. Bet big on small, small on big, mid on mid. All right, so that's good. That's another heuristic that is basically just the same, right? And we can just kind of port over. All right. What's next? What do we want to look at? We want to look at specifically unpaired boards or disconnected boards. We didn't do that much about connectedness, did we? Check raise lawless on monotone boards. I'm trying to figure out, make sure that we're kind of covering. You know what? Let's maybe cover some new spots here. Okay. We have, let's look at connected boards specifically. Connected boards, check more on connected boards, right? This is like monotone. Check more on connected boards. Use small sizing more. And this is a little bit counter to what, like, I've been doing this wrong, I think. I have been betting bigger on connected boards while also mixing in checks. So mixing in the checks is good. There are some connected boards, like you'll see these top boards, the ones that really want to go big, they probably would like to go pot or even bigger even. That's the Queen Jack 10 boards. Queen Jack 10 is just like, yeah, I have ace king, you don't, let's go, right? And there's just no checking on those boards because the range is just so powerful, the range advantage, right? But if we go and look at specifically like rainbow connected boards, and is connected always, connected means a straight is available, because they use these words, right? But we want to make sure we know what they mean by these words. Connected appears to mean a straight is available. I don't see any where the straight's not available. So let's try medium, and medium means straight draws are available. Ace King Jack actually is medium somehow. Okay, maybe that's because there's exactly one combo of straight. But yeah, overall it looks like medium means straight draw is available. This has a fairly low check percentage and the larger side. Okay, So straight boards, which are connected, we'll say that. Straight boards. I'm going to call them straight boards. Use small sizing more, check a good amount, right? Whereas on I'm going to say use larger sizings on straight draw boards, right? And these are heuristics. This doesn't tell you exactly what to do in any given situation. It just means overall, when you have like a straight draw possible, you're going to use more of this big sizing. You're going to use more of this second sizing, this mid sizing, right? So a lot of king high boards, we're using this big sizing. Okay. I think 2 hours straight of talking about these things is probably pushing it for me, but such is what I have decided to do. So that's what I'm going to do for now. Okay, what do we have? What about, we can look at like different ones, right? We can look at like low connected, check, low straight draw boards, check a lot. Middle ones, check less. High ones, check the least, right? So check more on lower straight draw boards than mid, than higher, right? So basically, the higher the rank of the cards, the more betting you're gonna do. And also it looks like the more larger sizings, right? Let's see the middle. No, middle uses the most large sizings. Low is like go big or go home. Yeah. Use biggest, use bet 75 or check almost on small straight draw boards. And then on middle, mixed sizings on mid straight draw boards. And we'll go to high. And then kind of big or small, you know, on high straight draw boards. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's good for now for kind of generally getting an idea of the hijacks strategy. My nose is really itchy. That's just, I felt like a clarification was necessary. It's Vegas, it's dry, it's dusty. Such is life. Okay, so we will say check, bet, and now we want to look at what happens against how does big blind respond? How does big blind respond to a c-bet 33 from hijack? So we're not talking about this board. It's Vegas, it's dry, it's dusty, and I'm out. Yes, that was my clarification. That was my clarification. It's it's not Coke related. It could be, maybe it's caffeine withdrawal. I stopped drinking caffeine just before starting to do an exhaustive amount of work. And welcome, Silver Dreamer. Thank you for joining us. You popped in at the best moment, or spoke up at the best non-poker related moment. Let's take a look at big blind strategy against what is it? Against the c-bet. All right. So we actually fold less than against the Lojack. Overall is call 48.5, fold 37, we'll say, raise 15, right? So This is a bit more calling, a bit less folding, kind of similar amount of raising, I believe. So we are going to, how are we going to do this? What did we look at last time? We looked at check raise a lot less on monotone boards. Okay, so let's look at boards with mostly high cards, right? We'll just click high here. Yeah, fold more, right? But not as much. Fold more on high card boards, but not as much as versus Lojack, right? That was more pronounced against the Lojack. I think we can actually let's just filter by the highest fold frequencies. Yeah, these like double ace, these big, all Broadway cardboards. Yeah, so those kind of boards, we just get to fold a lot. That's fine. We're just like, okay, that's enough. Peace. Next, let's see which ones we raise the most. We raise the most on kind of mid-high pair boards. And these, yeah, not super clear pattern. I mean, I get the sense of it. This makes sense, but like how to put it into words. Okay, we'll say raise more on sort of mid-high pair boards, mid-straight boards. Those, if we think about it, it's like, okay, do we have more 10x suited? Like, why are we raising a lot here? Well, we're folding a lot, right? So we're just not calling that much. I mean, it's still 36% call, but we are going to now go and look at monotone and see, we fold a little less, raise a lot less. So fold less, raise less on monotone boards. So lots of calls. 58% even, that's a lot of calling. And then we can just compare that to like two-toned. Two-tone seems like pretty much you play it as the average, and rainbow also, right? Not a whole lot to glean from those specifically. We can go and look at paired boards. Not a lot of heuristics here, right? Trip boards fold a lot still, right? Fold a lot on trips boards. And what else? Let's see. Mostly this is going to be the high card, right? Especially high trips. Yeah, we'll say especially high trips. Raise about the same amount, right? Let's go to these connected boards. Should we look at let's look at low boards first, actually. Okay, low boards kind of fold less on low boards, right? Fold less on low boards, but still raise significant amount. I think I need to come up with a better note system at some point. That would be good. And what else do we want to look at? Connectedness, right? So disconnected. What about disconnected? All right, we're kind of playing along what we had been doing. Medium, a little less raising. What about connected? Yeah, nothing really big here. Nothing really jumps out at me, right? So, things we can do is we can look at like, okay, what calls the most? Okay, monotone, low, mid connected boards. That's just like a ton of calling, right? What calls the least? Ace kind of, and then this is like a rainbow low connected board. So it'd be easy to get that wrong, to do that exactly backwards. But yeah, these high paired boards have the least calling. So we'll say like boards with big pair do the least calling. Low monotone boards do the most calling. Okay, and I think that's good for heuristics for now. So I think what we can do is we can go back into the kind of play of hands, right? And now see how we perform. And it's a little bit on the earlier side, so I don't think I'm going to stretch it, right? I think let's take a chat break. We're just gonna hang out for a moment and relax, and then we will play through the scenario. Oh, you have to go through the thing, right? So if you're on YouTube and I didn't cut this out, sorry, I don't know. Again, as I said, like these videos are basically, this is a study session. I just crunched my finger. All right. What I'm doing basically is stuff that I would do anyway on my own, but I decided to stream it and then put them on YouTube because I thought two things, maybe three things. Number one, I don't know, maybe it's helpful for some people, right? Maybe you don't want to do a whole bunch of study on your own, and this is the sort of thing that you think is useful and that you could glean something from, but you know, you just want to watch someone else do it, right? You can get maybe not quite as much value out of it, but probably close to the value I'm getting. And it feels like from a study standpoint, I'm getting a large amount of value. So there's that. Number two, I want to do it every day on my own. And that's difficult, right? I decide a lot of things I want to do every day. And would I have done it today? I don't know. I'm a little conflicted. Like Thursdays are going to be my days off. I'm not going to play poker today. That's it. I'm too lazy. Thank you, Robin Hooded. Yeah, I figured I wasn't alone, and it's not just lazy always, right? Sometimes it's just like it's just hard to get the motivation. And lazy is a word that I think is sometimes like very accurate, and sometimes I think gets applied to like mental blocks as well, right? And it can be either, right? It can be just like, I just don't feel like it. But sometimes it's like, well, I really do want to do that, but then it's like, it's hard to just like engage with it. So, you know, I figure it can be helpful for some people, right? You know, I mean, maybe some people will want to watch it and, you know, help build up my YouTube channel, my Twitch channel. That's cool too. I do want to do a lot of things with both of them. It's not all going to be this all the time, right? But also, it's just like an accountability thing, right? It's like, yeah, if I say I'm going to stream it every day and then I'm going to put this video on YouTube, then I'm going to do it, you know? And I've committed to June, right? Last June, I did 45 days in a row. I'm trying to like find a comfortable position, but I don't have one. But, you know, late May, I think it was May 24th or 5th through early July, I did 45 days in a row of doing something similar, but with Omaha. But it was like a play and then review session every day. So every day I would have a session and I would review that session. And that's what I wanted to do at the time. And it was very helpful for me. I got much better at Omaha doing that. Still a lot of room for improvement. And maybe I'll do something like this with Omaha where I'm doing solver study, streaming. I think that would be fun. But yeah, I think it's very helpful to just have that kind of accountability and do that daily work, right? Maybe I should have done an hour instead of 2 hours. And maybe I'll keep it going past June 30th, right? But maybe I'll say, yeah, but I'm going to do 1 hour instead of 2 hours. I do feel like, I don't know, talking this much, maybe I get a little lightheaded, right? It's probably easier doing it with a partner, right? Having somebody else that I talk through it with as well. But, you know, and maybe we'll look at that in the future. But for this month, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be 60 hours of effort. And then we're going to have some YouTube videos from it. And then we'll take it from there. Let's see. Robin Hooded says, lazy, mental block, whatever. It's easier and more fun this way. Fair. Yes, exactly. The idea is to make it easy for somebody to get some study in without having to necessarily do all of it proactively themselves. And you know, and also it's more fun for me. Like hi Robin Hooded, hi Silver Dreamer, hi Cool Penguins. You know, it's like it's more fun. It's more fun that way. So yeah, let's move on. Let's go to the flop. Big blind is the caller. Hijack is the raiser. Single raised pot. Let's take some flops. And now we want to hit the play spot. And we are going to, yeah, there it fills in. We're going to say all flops. We could filter for just like monotone. And at some point, we'll try this, right? At some point. Maybe after I get through the 23 days or 25 or whatever it is of all the scenarios that I want to look at, maybe then we will dig into like just one thing, get like really granular. But okay, let's go. I am going to do this for maybe up to like 30 minutes. All right, big blind. Do I donk on this board? Probably not. I probably get to check fold this board a lot. And I think I probably have some raises. And this seems like a decent raise. I've got top two. I'm unblocking all the draws, which means there's a lot of hands that can call me in terms of drawing hands. I am unblocking the straights, unfortunately. King Jack off, they do have pure. Actually, I think King 10 off as well. So they're going to hit this pretty good. They're going to have a lot of strong one pair hands also. So it is mostly a call though. And, you know, we are folding 40% of our range almost. So this was fine. We can check raise, but we can also check call. I'm curious how we play different runouts. It's probably going to be pretty tricky. So I'm going to hit replay. And it's, you know, the thing I love about this is like, we can try all these different scenarios, like almost kind of like Groundhog Day-ish, right? For the YouTube videos, let me know whether you think I should chop it down to just like this portion or chop it into several portions. That's an option. I could do that. I could make like 3 videos out of each one instead of like a 2-hour bonanza, you know? Okay, so if I just call, and then hopefully we'll get a gross turn. It's pretty gross when we know their hand. Humorously, this looks pretty innocuous. 7-8 suited is in their range. Wait, what? Did they checked it back? They're supposed to check back 6s here? Or no, it's randoming. But it's randoming. Randomizing. Okay, I think humans bet 6s there always. The king. Can I even get value? I don't even think I can get value here. I can. I'm supposed to bet tiny, block bet. Okay. Get value from like ace king or something. Jeez. And do I have a call? I'm the queen of clubs I don't think is bad. Yeah, geez. I don't even know if I have a call. I probably do at this size. I don't know. This seems close. No, it's not close. It's just a clear call. It's a clear call. If I didn't know that they had pocket 6s, maybe it's different. Yeah, so this, you just have to call this. It's too good. And I can bet for value, right? So I'm a little mentally off there, but then I actually did take the right options. I did call, right? I called. So I was wrong about it being close. It's not close. It would be like a 1.34 blind. You see the EV is plus 1.34. So, yeah, so I was wrong about it being close, but I took the right option. So I would rather, I mean, I guess if I'm right about it being close, it's hard to take the wrong option. Ace king board, they're supposed to bet pretty big here pretty frequently, I think. 8s, it feels like a hand that I could bet for some protection, get hands like the queen jack 10 9 region to fold. I don't think I'm getting bigger pairs to fold. I don't think I'm getting a lot of value from weaker hands though, so I'm gonna check, but I can see the merits of a bet. The solver cannot see the merits of a bet. It's like, what are you talking about? This is a pure check. Against a check bet line this size, I feel like I'm supposed to call. In reality, I might fold this thinking like they've just got a lot of like king X and like weak ace X. But yeah, we are mostly supposed to call. But since it's a mix of call and fold, I'm going to guess that on the river, we're certainly allowed to fold this hand. The 5 seems like a miserable card. And so they had exactly the type of hand that I thought made sense for them. But they can check back the turn with that hand some as well. I would think more like a king queen would be more of a value bet there. So, all right, 10 deuce 3. Let's see. We do get to check a lot on boards like these, I think. But default, we are going to bet third pot range. It's a straight draw board, right? Not connected board. So yeah, we get to check a lot is the wrong way to say it. We get to check some for sure. Now this to me feels like a classic overbet spot where they're going to have like some 2x, some 3x, some 10x, certainly 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, and 9s. And I think we can just kind of like blast them out of the water and have really good equity here. Yeah, solver loves an overbet here. Yeah, pocket 8s. It's like, what are you going to do with pocket 8s, right? I've got 10 outs and, you know, most of the time you've got 2 outs. So I think I like this hand. I feel good about it. And that is a spot that I'm starting to actually implement in my game using overbets and spots like that. Okay, connected, kind of mid, straight draw board. I think we do a decent amount of checking. They're going to have probably more 10x than us. I think we can probably check or bet this pot small. Was this a board that we're supposed to bet more on the larger side? I'm not sure. So I'm going to use a small C bet, but I think a check is probably totally fine. Yep, it's like do whatever you want. In fact, it prefers the larger bet size if we do bet. I think I get to fold this. I mean, if I'm calling this, yeah, that'd be surprising. Okay, so they flop bottom set. Pretty clear. And so let's remember to try and look at their hands as well and how they're supposed to play their hands, because that's just like we've got the hand there. We might as well learn both sides of the equation. All right, so monotone boards, we check a lot. I do think this is a hand that we're going to mix small bet and check, and that's correct. And whether we get to bet turn, I think we get to bet turn with our trips. I don't think we get to bet that big, but maybe like one of these mid sizes. I think I'm gonna go with half pot. Oh no, it wants the larger size more. Basically we can charge a heart X. And then here I think I can get value from the nut flush draw. How many nut flush draws do they have? They have ace queen off, ace jack off. I think they have some ace 10 off as well. Pure ace 10 off? Then maybe some ace 9 off. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I don't think we can go super big. They've still got some slow played flushes, I believe. Maybe even some slow played boats. They can have a better 8 as well. But I do think we get to go like something there. No, it wants... okay. So I had the right idea. Yes, bet big, but bet bigger, right? And this just doesn't get as much value as the larger sizings. But it's, it's an eighth of a big blind. So in a pot this size, that's not that large of a mistake. And the lesson is just like, apparently you can jam here for value. I would not recommend that against humans. I don't think you're going to get a lot of value that way, but maybe at NL 500. I don't know. Not really what I'm looking at. Okay, so straight board. I think there's a good amount of checking on these. This is a hand that I think can be bet or checked. Let's go with the check. Mostly check here. Doing a lot of checking with range. Now, this might be a decent hand to start turning into a bluff. We could also check it and then bluff the river. Ace king is maybe a better hand to bluff as it's blocking more of the top pair hands. Here, I think we're very much unblocking their folding range, so I like that. I'm going to check one more time. It still likes to check. And I think if there's a brick, I think we bluff river. That's like kind of a brick. Yeah, I feel like this is like maybe we just like pot it. I don't know. What sizing do we use with like a 10? And we shouldn't really have a lot of 10s, but I feel like this is definitely out of all the hands, like this and like 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s are hands that we can bluff. I'm conflicted on sizing. I'm going to go pot. It seems like it likes pot on the river a lot. It's okay with that. It would rather have, yeah, so they fold. It would rather I was leaning towards the kind of magenta bet sizing. And yeah, we can check some as well. So we want to bet these under pairs some as a bluff, but not pure, not all the time. All right. Next hand. Okay, we're the big blind. Now we do get to lead on these boards some, and this seems like a fair hand to lead. I'm gonna do that. We didn't really look at how the other person's supposed to play when the leads, with the leads, and then we can replay it without the leads. I think on this card, we're supposed to check. I think when the ace comes, they're probably going to have a lot of ace X in their peeling range. So yeah, mostly check. And when we do bet, it looks like it's an overbet, right? Let's double check that. Here, the bet was overbet. Okay, so I think we have to call. I mean, I don't think we bet this once and then just check fold it. All right, it's close. We're allowed to fold it. It's okay to fold. And now we made 2 pair, and I think we go for a check raise. I mean, ace deuce, ace 3. They have those suited. Ooh, against this sizing, do we check raise? We check raise. Interesting. I feel like they've kind of polarized themselves with this sizing. Smaller check raise, smaller bet sizing, definitely I was going to check raise. Against this sizing, I'm a little less sure. They definitely can still, I think they can have some like ace king, ace queen still though. So this is maybe a very nitty. I feel like the solver wants to check raise this, and I mean, I have a hard time deciding between like this small one and the jam. But I think they have to, don't they have to kind of hero us with like an ace X? That's the question. All right, let's try it. Nope, pure call. And do they fold? So yeah, so that's actually a sizable mistake. And I was like thinking against that sizing, let's play it again and see if they use a different sizing if we're supposed to check raise. But yeah, call is clearly better EV than either of the raise sizes. And which raise size does it prefer? It likes the large size, so it definitely doesn't want that medium size, because the idea there is like if they have a monster, then they can probably jam and like I still have to call it off. Whereas here it's like I'm just basically forcing them to think about making a hero call. Actually, maybe I get no value from, what do they do with their hand? Yeah, they mix. No, wait, what do they do in response to mine? My play isn't made at all, so they don't even tell me what they do. That's fine. Okay, we will, yeah, let's replay this. Let's again try with the donk, and then we can take a different line after and try the check line. Right, so they did call, and we want to check this, although we can overbet as well. And we call, and then if we check the river, let's see if they use a smaller sizing at all. All right, well, we already know, we just want to call this, and my accuracy will improve even though it, you know, it hasn't really. All right, so let's start with a check and see what happens. If they bet, are we supposed to check raise here? Okay, well, they checked. And now I imagine we keep checking, and now we're going to bet. I mean, now we're going to call, right? I mean, right? Yeah, your call. And then now can we check raise? Because, you know, ranges should be different than they were. Still against a pot-sized bet. They checked back flop, though, as opposed to calling a flop bet. So I think that makes their range have a lot less, like, two pair hands in it. A lot, you know, fewer straights. Yeah, 4-5 suited, they have a little bit, right? I still kind of want to raise this. No, solver's like, you just call this. You are overplaying your hand, which is interesting. And then they jam ace king. Are they bluffing? Is this a bluff? What are they doing? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, so we mixed there, and they turned ace king. I don't even understand. I guess they're supposed to turn it into a bluff there a little bit, because that's, yeah, the jam, it must be a bluff because the smaller raise is minus EV. That is very strange. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, if you do check raise there and you get jammed on, that is a very unpleasant situation to be in. So let's move on. Very odd. Okay, I flop a flush draw on a high card board. These, I'm trying to remember if I get to check raise that much. I mean, I think leading and checking are probably both fine. With a small flush, I think we probably want to lean towards leading. I'm going to use this sizing. It wants even bigger, more, like just go full pot. And then the board pairs, I think that's fairly brickish. Like they can have pocket fives, and I guess they can slow play some sets probably. But yeah. I'm going to say, let's pot it. Yeah, it likes pot. Overbet's just too much. And yeah, okay. So they check back top. They're, as we see, they're like mostly, well, they're mostly supposed to bet it, but they can check a little for balance. And then they pick up the nut flush draw to go with it. So pretty reasonable looking hand. I'm going to replay it and see. Oh, no, the problem here is that now they're going to bet the flop. All right, so how do we, no, they check flop. I want to see whether we're supposed to check raise, and if so, what sizing. They checked it back. Very weird. Interesting. Okay. Well, now, I mean, it's got to be mostly check. So mostly check river again and go for a check raise on the river. And then I think we can only call here. I don't see how we could. No, you get a 3-bet. They're supposed to raise that much that's less than a flush that you can 3-bet here. Okay. All right. Well, we're not mostly here to study turn and river spots. We're mostly trying to figure out the flop. So let's focus on that. This type of board, not a lot of leading. I imagine we peel this hand. Yeah, maybe we can even check raise it as a bluff some, but I think pretty clear peel. Yeah, so we can check raise it a tiny amount, but mostly we're just peeling. Yeah, I don't think we're going to lead much on this card. And I would imagine we're calling most bets here. This sizing feels like we have to be calling it. We have ace high for some showdown value. We have the gutter, 2 overcards. We can mix though. Yeah, it's not super clear. I wonder if we'd rather have a spade or not. And then here, we're going to have some donk leads. This is one of the worst hands we're going to have. So I think we're going to have some donk leads. Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't bet anything at all. But I would think maybe some 8x we're betting. So this might occasionally... Yeah, it seems like it's like, yeah, you can occasionally bluff with that. And against this, I think occasionally maybe we could use this hand as a check raise bluff, but I think we can just fold. And it's actually like, yeah, you can call occasionally. So nice hand. Next. All right, not a lot of, probably some donking here. Yeah, tiny bit. They check back. We've got top pair and a flush draw. I think this makes a very robust check. I think we can also bet it for value some. If we're valuing, I think, I don't know. I don't really know on sizing. I would lean towards this, 3/4. I'm going to check and kind of see how it plays as a check. No, it wants like a big bet sizing. And I think this is a check call as we have that mix of showdown value and I think we're going to check raise here some on this card. But we can also probably just go ahead and value bet against their ace X for like some kind of medium, kind of large sizing, right? I would think. I'm going to go for a check raise and see whether it likes that. It mostly wants, I think, the tiny bet size, like a block bet. Mostly wants a block bet. Interesting. And with range... there's like full pot bets, but they're not this. Interesting. Maybe it's because you can block bet 3-bet. So we'll replay this again. Let's see. Do we want like a large sizing or a smaller sizing? I'm going to go with the larger one, but it might want the smaller one. And then I bet it's going to jam some. Yeah, it jams some. It likes to jam here. Okay, so I don't even get a check raise in here. That's the thing. I mean, I check raise, but I don't even get paid off by ace jack with a spade blocker. So I wonder if the smaller one does get paid. But yeah, if we look at this, any raise size is fine. They're all very close in EV because the solver's going to play perfectly, and it's only going to, it's going to pay off with the ones appropriate to the bet sizing. So let's replay this and see if we can go check again and get to that river spot. Of course, we learned that we can overbet this turn, but the check is fine. And now when we do bet here, it wants a block sizing. And then I guess they just call with that. And we just get called by all the ace X. And some flush draws might have checked back and they raise us and then we jam on them probably anyway. All right, next hand. Jack 3-4. Feels like this is a board that we're going to do a lot of c betting on. This feels like a hand right in our wheelhouse of c betting. Maybe we check it like 20% of the time or something. Oh no, we check it a ton. Wow, we check this board this much? Huh. High, low, low. Okay, I've got to look back at high, low, low boards. I don't think we're folding to this, but it's probably closer than we think. Like, I bet the EV of call is like close to 0. 0.67. Okay, it's either call or raise. All right, here, the draws still have not come in. I think they can still theoretically have some maybe like queen jack or jack 10 occasionally for weaker value. And I think clear call, but this is actually close. So the flop was very clear call. Turn was close. This river card, I don't even know what our bluffs are here. Like we bet an ace and a 6, I guess. And then our bluffs, like we're unblocking, like what would he even be trying to get to fold? So they do have 2 pair, and this is a pure check. And we are actually supposed to be betting like close to half our range somehow. But I think that's fairly tricky to figure out what those would be. Those, those one-liners they're tricky. And then this feels like it can just be an elementary check fold, I think. Like we get to fold 38% of our range. This feels like it's got to be part of that 38%. And that's one of the things that I like best about this kind of solver study is learning kind of just the hands that we definitely can fold even if they're playing perfectly, right? I think that's just a really good place to start. And then we figure out what to do with everything else. But when you just know, like, yeah, these are the hands I can toss. I'm not getting exploited. It's fine. I think that's just a really good baseline. Okay. 8s on this board. I bet mixing and checking, betting and checking. Yeah, I think a lot of these pairs, these mid-pocket pairs are going to do a lot of checking. But yeah, it's mixing. And it likes the kind of large or small size, not the medium size. If we checked before, does that mean more checking now? I think now we can bet. Can we use the larger sizing, or are we just basically trying to shake loose like 6 outers? Can we get value from a 6? I'm going to do this, even though, yeah, I kind of was like, logically, I was thinking the smaller bet was better. I don't like how I thought about that, and now I think we can just fold. Having the heart blocker is obviously bad, right? But we're supposed to pure call there. So not obviously we can fold. We're supposed to call. Interesting. Huh, okay. So it's 0.4 EV. All right, next hand. So we will check this, and I think this is like a check call easily, right? But I think you can also raise this some with the double backdoor, bottom pair. You can hit trips, you can hit. I'm gonna try that and see whether it likes it. Yeah, it loves this hand as a check raise. Look at that, loves it. Yeah, and then now I think usually you just check. Right, there's so many cards that you can pick up equity on. This is important. This is something I need to remind myself of. Check raising aggressively with cards that can pick up equity is very useful, right? People might overfold, but even if they're just continuing correctly, you're gonna get a lot of folds, and then you're also going to have a lot of turns that you can barrel effectively. But when you don't pick up equity, it's important to remember, yeah, the point of those hands was not that you were check raising them for value. It was not that it was a draw that you wanted to check raise and barrel off that was like a strong draw or something. It's that you were hoping to pick up equity. I didn't pick up equity, so we give up. Maybe now we can bluff or something, but yeah, and we can actually. Like on the river, it's like, yeah, you could maybe move them off queens. Let's replay it. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Check. Actually, they're probably going to check back a lot here now, right? It's going to be annoying. No, okay. So we check raise. We check turn. And now I'm going to bluff river. River's a king. Like queen 10, king jack. These are hands I think we can rep. And we could bet small, but like I think we could go big. And yeah, solver likes like any of the sizings, right? Because basically we had a hand that had some showdown value and it had some chances of improving, right? They could call us with a hand like king, queen 10, queen 10, stuff like that, maybe, right? At least with a backdoor. We didn't pick up any equity, so we checked, but they checked it back. So that kind of somewhat caps their range, right? And then the river is a card that, okay, we probably don't have diamonds because we probably would have barreled with like jack 10 of diamonds or something, I think. But, or maybe that hand also check calls some because the 3 is like, we couldn't, there's no like 3x of diamonds that we could have had because the 3 of diamonds on board. So here I think it makes a lot of sense to now like, yeah, we could have queen 10 and we could have king jack. And so we can bet those hands, or we can rep those hands, trying to get hands like king queen, king 10, jack X to fold. Especially a lot of jack X, and like maybe if they had any pairs between like threes and jacks, maybe they can fold those. Although I don't think they call those with a check raise. All right, I think I'm pretty close to the end of my mental capacity for the day. I've got to take someone to a place somewhere, so I'm going to wrap this one about 10 minutes early. Actually, you know what? Let's do a review of this. Right. So here, this was hopefully right. Yeah, this is. Hijack RFI versus big blind call notes. Okay, so which boards does the big blind donk on? They're donking about 6% overall. That's not a lot. Mostly on small to mid connected boards. Those will be like 50% frequency or more. Never more than 22.5% donk on monotone boards. So not so much on monotone boards. On the two-tone or the rainbow small to mid connected boards, cool. The hijack is going to c-bet versus the big blind call and check with 38%. They're going to check. So that means they're c-betting 62%. 36% is bet third, 10% bet half, 16% bet three quarters. Overall, the hijack uses the large sizing a bit more than the Lojack did. And I think was the check, that was like pretty similar, right? They checks 47.5% on monotone boards, which is a little bit more than Lojack did. Rarely uses larger sizings. Check even more on the ace high monotone boards, right? Rainbow boards, there's still significantly less checking than on overall boards. A mix of sizings. I think if we default to like range bet 33%, that's fine, and then we can fine tune it on boards that feel appropriate. Check more on straight boards and use a small sizing more. So if a flush is possible, if a straight is possible, we just don't get to bet as much and we don't get to bet as large. Lower straight draw boards, we're going to check more than higher straight draw boards. That's going to probably give them more two pair combos. That's kind of maybe the thing to think about more concretely, right? How much two pair do they have? And then also think about the straight draws. But if the straight's not possible yet, them having a bunch of straight draw possibilities, that just means our c-bet is going to get through a little less, right? They're going to call, they're going to check raise more. Bet 75% of pot or check on the small straight draw boards. So we want to go like large or nothing, go big or go home. Mixed sizings on mid showdown straight draw boards, and we can use the big bet or the small bet on the high straight draw boards. So like bet 75 or bet 33, not so much half pot. How does the big blind respond to the c-bet, third pot c-bet from hijack? Overall, they're calling a little less than half the time, folding 37%, raising 15%. So that's pretty similar to Lojack. On high card boards, they fold more than that, but not quite as much as the Lojack did. They are raising more on the mid-high pair boards and mid-straight boards, right? So those kind of like, I guess like 9-9x, 10-10x type boards, there's a lot of raises. Mid-straight boards where you can have the straight as the big blind, you get to raise more. Fold less and raise less on monotone boards, right? So lots of calls on monotone boards. On low boards, you fold a lot less, right? I mean, that's kind of intuitive. I think big blind has a better range versus, they're doing well range wise, but also like there's just going to be a lot of overcard hands, right? Now on those small boards, I guess maybe they're using larger sizings in position, so this is maybe going to be less useful, not sure. Fold a lot on trip boards, especially high trips, right? We still had that thing with trips where in position was supposed to like bet big on low trips, small on high trips, and medium on medium trips. And boards with a big pair, we do the least calling out of position. Low monotone boards do the most calling. And was that it? That's it for my notes there. And yeah, that's going to be a wrap. Thanks so much for hanging out. And you know, we had some folks pass through and comment on the analysis, and then also just on being here, and you know, just you know, kind of hanging out is always welcome. That's my alarm, as well as is you know, poker specific comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. And there will be another one of these tomorrow, unless you're watching these way in the future. And then hopefully there's a lot of other interesting stuff. But this is part of a 30-part series, I guess. So yeah, okay. Cheers. Have a great day. Peace. I'm out of here.